What is going on, F Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to another episode of the Caught Stealing Fantasy Baseball Show. We are doing our ADP Fantasy Baseball breakdowns. We did the catchers already. You can find that over at the Fantasy Slam YouTube page. Today we're going to be talking second base ADP here, Grande, a little middle infielders for those of you who play in leagues that also have the middle infield option for you. Fantasy Baseball season set is quickly arising here. Our Fantasy Baseball draft guide and cheat sheet is live. You can scan that QR code right there or go to Fantasy Baseball, fantasyalarm.com. Go to the fantasy tab, click on the Fantasy Baseball link there to get the draft guide for you guys. You can also become an all-pro member there. You see the scroll down at the bottom, fantasyalarm.com/YouTube, promo code YT50. That will also get you access to the Fantasy Alarm draft guide and cheat sheet for this fantasy baseball season. Grande, second base, man. It's an interesting position this year. Guys with some power, guys with some speed, some young names to talk about, and we'll break it all down for everybody here.
Yeah, I mean, some power,
some
speed,
a little bit,
like a little bit of those things at this position. I mean, I think it's been the case for the last couple of seasons. Second base is probably the worst position on the board. I mean, there is one second baseman being drafted in the first two rounds of your fantasy baseball drafts. There's two in the top 50.
Yeah.
That kind of speaks to the depth of the position, and it kind of speaks to what happens after it's kind of spooky season, John, after, the top couple of names. Now, we had some obviously breakout candidates last year. You mentioned a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. Hello, Bryce Turang, like 2025 season, where we were only expecting one of those things.
Yeah.
So, there is some interesting options. I would just it's again going into a year where I think there's some excitement. I think you and I have targets that that we talked about a lot last year that we had in fantasy baseball leagues that we'll get into, but we'll see. We'll see about some of those things.
I will say, if you go to fantasyalarm.com/MLB/ADP, you'll get our composite ADP page. Obviously, each league platform has different ADP rankings. So whether you're playing on ESPN, RT Sports, Yahoo, Fantrax, you name it, some of these ADPs you see on the screen right there may differ slightly. But if you do go to fantasyalarm.com/MLB/ADP, you'll see our updated composite ADP data for you guys there. So we're going to go our best. We're going to go and break down each of these players here. But just know, if you're playing on ESPN, maybe Luke Keaschall is your fourth second baseman, and Ceddanne Rafaela is your ninth. It all depends on kind of where you're playing at, but this is a quick look at sort of some composite ADP here. Jazz Chisholm, though, your New York Yankees second baseman, he was going all out last year for the 30-30 season, and he got there. 31 homers, 31 stolen bases, hit just 240 last year, but still the power speed combo that we know Jazz can be.
Yeah, at a position that's just lacking depth, it doesn't matter if he hits 240 if we're going to go 30-30 again. If he's going to have an 800 plus OPS, 240 doesn't matter. Jazz has stated on record that he wants much loftier numbers than 30-30. Is that, just Jazz being Jazz? It is, but he is an incredibly talented player. Probably the only guy that can do that on this list, right? He's only one of two guys at the position that hit 30 home runs last year, him and Brandon Lowe.
Yep.
Now, Ketel Marte obviously would have been there, but Ketel Marte only played less than 130 games. He is only one of three second basemen that had 80 RBIs last year. Brandon Lowe, Jazz Chisholm, and Bryce Turang. So and when you're talking about stolen bases, the only guy at second base that had 30 steals. So pretty clear cut number one option, and is worth the ADP. I draft him at that number each and every day. Biased aside.
Yeah. Despite all of the trade rumors throughout the offseason, Ketel Marte remained in Arizona. He is your second baseman off the board here. 28 homers, 72 RBIs, hit 283 last year with the near 900 OPS. You said 126 games played for him last season. If he does get a full season of work, we saw him hit, was it 35 homers? I think it was 36 homers the year prior. So plenty of power from the top two guys here at the position. And then you go Bryce Turang, a guy who 2 years ago had a ton of speed. Last year, not as much stolen bases, but all of a sudden hits 18 homers. So what's your expectations here from Turang and Marte rounding out the top three?
Yeah, I mean, Marte's an elite hitter. It was a very strange season for Ketel Marte. There was all the clubhouse stuff, and then so much so that Geraldo Perdomo had to speak out for him.
Yeah,
be like, no, we like this guy. What are you guys saying? Why are you guys saying we don't like him? We like him. And there was this stuff in Chicago about his mom, right, with the fan.
yeah.
And he was just constantly in and out of the lineup last year. That seems to be behind them, especially now that they haven't traded him. He could just play baseball. I mean, when you look at some expected numbers on Baseball Savant, John, he rated out with the highest expected WOBA of any second baseman. He rated out with the highest expected slug of any second baseman, and he only trailed Nico Hoerner in terms of expected batting average at second base. So, we're still talking about a super, super elite baseball player. Sorry, basketball on the mind, John. We're always talking.
We do all the shows here. I almost did it as well. We're okay.
So we're talking about a guy at the position that was first, second in terms of WOBA or expected WOBA, expected slug, expected batting average, respectively. Elite player, and then Turang. I mean, it's a weird one because he stole 50 bags.
Yeah.
And then it's not year over year, he just got slower. I mean, his sprint speed is interesting because it did decrease. In 2024, it was the 94th percentile. In 2025, it was the 88th percentile. 88th percentile sprint speed is still very fast.
Yeah.
You are still probably capable for more. Obviously, the power was tremendous, and he's really just become a good hitter. So yeah, I think we probably get some evened out stuff for Bryce Turang. I think the steals trend back up. I'm just looking at some of his batted ball data. I mean, nothing really changed for him. Nothing that would suggest I'm pulling the ball more, I'm hitting the ball in the air, there's some players, and you can go to fantasyalarm.com and check out the draft guide. I did a breakdown of some that are in new spots that were like Wilson Contreras, and we talked first in another episode that you guys can catch on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel. There's clear indication that, he's going to pull the ball more, it's going to work in Fenway. There's not that profile for Turang, where he's just suddenly wow, this totally makes sense why he's hitting all these home runs. So I do think the home runs either kind of even, we get a downtick there and maybe some more steals, sure, which it doesn't necessarily hurt because this is a position that doesn't have a lot of big time stolen base threats. Yep. So
and again, the upside for him is certainly there.
Yes.
I think Nico Hoerner is the most boring player of this group. A guy that doesn't really have a lot of power. There's good batting average. Obviously, there's 100 run potential upside, some speed. He had 29 stolen bags, but are you spending Nico Hoerner? Is that a guy you're targeting in drafts, or is that just a guy you're just happy to get? Because you have Hoerner, Altuve. Obviously, I had to throw Luke Keaschall on the image because you and I are day one Luke Keaschall fans here. Ceddanne Rafaela obviously has a bunch of positional eligibility, but we know what his upside can be. goes through runs of just like ridiculous power and speed throughout the season. Albies had a really bad year last year, but so did everybody pretty much in Atlanta. Lowe has a ton of power, and then Edwards is a speed guy. So, like, I don't know. Nico Hoerner, to me, is like the most boring player of the top 10 here.
I think when you get players like Nico Hoerner, and like we'll talk at the end of this list, like Xavier Edwards is basically the same player, right? It's like the Spider-Man meme where there's essentially no power, but two players that are going to hit a top of lineup and possibly steal you 30 bags. And they're single category contributors, right? They'll get you runs. And you mentioned like this, but the steals and the batting average are really like, I'm good with it, but I think you pair them with something else, like another category contributor as like a home run hitter, right? If you draft Nico Hoerner, go get Joe Adell in the outfield, who's going to hit you potentially 40 bombs. But hit 40 bombs, right? So I think where you lose, I don't think Hoerner's, I like Hoerner. I mean, he doesn't strike out. He had an 8% strikeout rate last year. He's on base at a 350 clip. And again, you mentioned almost 100 runs, and that offense got better this year, adding Alex Bregman. Yeah. So I like Hoerner. I think he's fine at the ADP. Altuve, I mean, with him moving back to second base, I think it's going to help. He is one of the guys that hit the most home runs at second last year, despite Altuve, like, getting older.
He's 35 now, 5'6", 160 pounds, and he's still hitting 25 bombs.
Hitting 25 bombs. Obviously, like, the slug dropped off pretty
everything on his StatCast page is blue for Jose Altuve. So
yeah, it's scary. It's scary season for Jose Altuve. He's probably the first fade for me. Luke Keaschall is an interesting one, John, because as much as we loved him last year, he also like doesn't have the best looking StatCast page. Like the speed obviously plays and the contact obviously plays. He's not a big strikeout guy.
And I told you he wasn't a homer guy when he got called up. If you remember the episode, I was like, this guy has gap power with speed. He ended up actually hitting homers when he came back from the broken forearm.
Yes, first game. I remember first game back off the IL, hit a home run.
Yeah,
only hit. I mean, he hit 4. It's another similar to Nico Hoerner play, but I don't think he hits for as much average as Nico Hoerner. I think that's the difference. Like, as much as we were excited about Keaschall last year, I do think like there's a reason why there's 2 rounds and a 26 pick gap between him and Nico Hoerner. His maybe fully formed version is Nico Hoerner.
Yeah, probably. I mean, again, he's a little bit bigger, so I mean, the expectations for him are a little bit bigger. But I mean,
right?
Because he was a second round pick, he had some good minor league numbers, obviously. But yeah, I mean, obviously the early StatCast numbers for him in terms of like hard hit rate and exit velo were not good. But he made ridiculously good contact when he did hit the baseball. He didn't chase, had a really good strikeout rate. So if he does get on base and they hit him at the top or the middle of that lineup, I think there's more opportunities for him to maybe be a bit more offensive with his production there. But even then, like you said, you're getting Nico at pick 99 or, around that range, obviously. Luke Keaschall, a couple of rounds later. Ceddanne Rafaela is one that could flirt with a 2020 season. Obviously, another one that goes through spells where he'll hit 200 for about a month, and then he'll hit 350 for a month, like we saw him do at times. So, what are your thoughts on sort of the second half of this second base group?
Yeah, I mean, Ceddanne is what he is. I feel like he can't change, right? He's going to have a high chase rate. He's going to swing at everything. He's going to go through. You just said it. He's going to go through spells where he's the best player on the planet and he's the worst player on the planet. And that's like, you live with that because his defense is so good. Yeah. He has so many positional eligibilities that obviously plays here. I'm like indifferent about Ceddanne. If you end up on Rafaela as your first second baseman, I think you'll be happy. And if you don't roster him, I think it's like, I don't need to deal with that headache for month to month, week to week, day to day, where he looks like that. So
absolutely. I agree with you. I remember last year I told you the team told him like to take the first pitch, and he's still going out there and like swinging at the first pitch. He just like can't help himself. He just
can't help it, dude.
Just swings. He's out there to be offensive. So, and yeah, another guy that if you looked at the StatCast page, nothing about it is spectacular. But 16 homers, 20 stolen bases, 700 OPS, had 85 runs scored. So, they're going to need him. The Red Sox didn't do really anything to improve their offense outside of Wilson Contreras and hoping the kids stay healthy this year. So, Rafaela himself, only 25 years old, but 15 and 16 homers, 19 and 20 stolen bases the last 2 seasons. Does Ozzie Albies bounce back? He's getting older.
29.
Getting older.
He just got that contract so early, like the Braves do, right? They just give all those guys contracts. I mean, he had a terrible year. He's projected to hit 7th on this team. He's still gonna play every day. We know, historically has hit lefties well. That even fell off.
Well, that was the only thing we were saving him until last season. He couldn't even do that.
Yeah, he couldn't even do that. I'm probably not gonna chase Albies. I mean, you can get. I think the reason is you can get 30 home run player in Brandon Lowe behind him, and you can get a 30 steal guy that's going to hit 280 and Xavier Edwards behind him as well. I think there's a couple of second basemen that I'd rather wait on than Ozzie Albies and hope. I'm not saying he's washed. I mean, 29 is not like old.
No, but he wasn't good the year before that, really.
Right. Right.
Obviously missed time, but it seems like now a couple year decline. We also talked about it. That lineup is completely different when there's not Ronald Acuna at the top of it. And then the rest of that lineup just got like Austin Riley got hurt and Michael Harris was like that team was just never able to get in sync at all. With the way they went there. Brandon Lowe is obviously interesting because he had the big breakout season last year when he was playing in Tampa Bay when they were playing in the minor league ballpark. Yes. Then he gets traded to Pittsburgh now. Pittsburgh has kind of revamped their team there a little bit. He's going to get to play every day. We know the power is legit. But is he going to find the same level of success now that he's in PNC versus playing in, where they're, whatever, the
George Steinbrenner
Field, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the concern. To be fair, this is a guy who hit 40 home runs at the Trop in a season in his career. So, and that's not recent. It's not like that just happened. That was a while back, but it is worth mentioning. Like, he does have serious power when he is able to stay healthy. That has been the Brandon Lowe problem, health.
Yeah, and all the metrics for Savant are all in the red, 80, 70, 80 percentile and slugging, barrel, exit velo, hard hit. So numbers there kind of play out for him. And then you mentioned Edwards. Again, Miami had some nice moments last year, right? They had Stowers and Norby and guys like that, Gustin Ramirez. And, it's a fun young lineup. Maybe they put some things together and can improve upon it. And if Edwards is in the top of that lineup, he could find some success there. If we go on to the next tier, 11 to 20 here, and again, this is sort of just some composite ADP. Some of these numbers may have changed over the last couple of days since this was put together here, but you go to fantasystorm.com/MLB/ADP and kind of check out where these guys are currently ranking. Jackson Holliday up at the top, obviously, but dealing with a broken hamate bone, a popular injury apparently so far this offseason by some. Bryson Stott. Matt McLain's having a really good spring, a guy that a lot of people were bullish on last year that just completely fell off. You have your guy, Jose Caballero, Jorge Polanco with some new digs now as well. Talk to me about sort of this next group of 10.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't seen it really from Holliday at the major league level yet, and now he's dealing with a major injury. Just not my cup of tea. Just hasn't been a good major league player at this point. Stott, I think, is fine for multi-category stuff. McLain is interesting, obviously, if the spring can continue, because, boy, everything was terrible last year. is a fast dude and does have power, and we saw that in his rookie campaign, but last year was not it for him. But he plays in an elite hitting environment in a, what should be an improved lineup around him with the additions of, Sal Stewart, Suarez for a full year, Sal Stewart for a full year. So, like, it should be better for McLain and just the Reds kind of in general. So I don't hate McLain.
Still 15 homers, 18 stolen bases, despite 220 and a 640 OPS.
Oh yeah, right? It was terrible. And there was a lot of missed games in there too, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he didn't play 100. Oh no, he only played 100. He played 147 games. Was that his rookie year? It was his rookie year that he missed a bunch of games. Then.
But they were moving him up and down the lineup. I think that's probably what we more remember. They kept on like hitting him down at the bottom at times. So.
And then Caballero is gonna start the year as the Yankee shortstop with Volpe, with everything in flux with the shoulder, and could Volpe start in the minors when he returns? Like, there's a lot of what ifs with the Yankees. Caballero led Major League Baseball in steals. That's what if you are drafting Jose Caballero, you are drafting him to continue to do that. Exploit the rules, steal a bunch, and get on base enough to do so, because he's not a power guy. There's not a lot to like, truthfully, outside of the steals. Like, talk about the single category contributor. Jose Caballero is that. And then we know Jorge Polanco is a good hitter. Didn't really hit from the left side or from the right side last year. And I could see a scenario. We've seen Mark Vientos at first base in all camp, and we know how good Vientos is against left-handed pitching. So I could see somewhat of a split, unless Polanco, starts getting back to switch hitting as well as he did. But if he doesn't hit well from the right side, he can end up in a platoon. Good hitter, but obviously really good from the left side of the plate.
Yeah, so from a batting average perspective, last year, obviously he had 250, but he had 21 homers against right-handed pitching. Hit 305 from the left side against right-handed pitching, but just 5 homers. So,
well, it was do you remember that at the end of the year they wouldn't bat him from the right side because the injury?
Yeah.
I wonder how it's viewed with the Mets this year, and like, because Vientos is working out at first as well.
Sure.
It just makes you wonder what they're gonna do. Like, Polanco is like, Mark Vientos could just be splitting with Beatty long term, like as their DH, and then like filling in at third or filling in at first, like just kind of simply as like a backup. But it's just interesting. Because the Mets do have options there with Polanco and with Vientos lurking in the background.
Sure. You got Otto Lopez, Gleyber Torres, Luis Garcia, Marcus Semien, another Mets guy with second base eligibility here, and Brendan Donovan rounding out sort of the bottom half of this next group of 10 here. Garcia and Lopez are kind of interesting because they all both offer, mid-teens power, mid-teens to 20 stolen base potential here if you're just looking for some guys that can fill up the stat sheet for you.
Yeah, I wrote up, not to give too much away, but in this year's late round sleeper targets article in the MLB Draft Guide, I will say I wrote up Luis Garcia Jr. I actually think he's a pretty good late round target. He has to hit lefties better. That's something. He also could gain first base eligibility, much like Polanco's going to gain first base eligibility this year. Because that's where he's going to play. But Garcia's also been getting a lot of work at first. But here's some things I saw that led me to Luis Garcia. These are his actual numbers versus his expected numbers, Sean, okay? So he hit 252 last year. His expected batting average was 281. It was the 8th largest difference in all of Major League Baseball between batting average and expecting batting average. His slugging, Luis Garcia, 412 slug last year, 470 expected slug. It was the 18th largest difference in the MLB. And his 300 WOBA was accompanied by a .339 expected WOBA, but it was the third largest difference in the MLB. There's just a lot of stuff pointing to bad luck for Luis Garcia, a guy that had kind of been breaking out, but is a 2020 threat if he's given the ability, if he's given the chance to play more against lefties this year, if he gets another opportunity to do so. Sure. So I am a little bit bullish. For as putrid as the Nationals pitching is going to be, because it's going to be all-time bad. Them and the Rockies are going to compete for the worst staffs in baseball. Their offense is kind of still fun while they haven't traded some of these pieces.
Wood. I mean, see if Cruz can come through here this season, the healthy season. We said like nobody was more unlucky last year at times than Dylan Cruz was. So. Yep. And then we got Luis Garcia Jr. here. Again, you know what Semien is at this point in his career. You know, if there's some spells where he'll have some power and some speed. Brendan Donovan, new home, better, really good lineup around him in Seattle. We know there's some power there with him. I don't mind targeting him. It's obviously a negative ballpark shift going into Seattle, but not a bad spot given where he's going in terms of ADPs here.
Yeah, he's like if Nico Hoerner is Costco, Brendan Donovan is like Walmart.
Okay.
You know, no offense to Walmart. I shop quite a bit at Walmart, but like Walmart just doesn't compare to Costco.
Sure.
You know, that's right. I mean, Brendan Donovan is a
Costco,
Brendan Donovan's he's a fine baseball player.
I mean, he has some a little bit, obviously has more power. You know, his
a little
Savant page looks a little bit better than what
will that play where he's going? I mean, he has not played in a favorable ballpark to begin with.
No.
Because St. Louis is like one of the worst ballparks in baseball over the last like multiple years. In fact, they're 25th for left-handed. Busch Stadium is 25th last year for lefties, and now he's going to the 29th rated park per Baseball Savant in T-Mobile. So like he's gonna probably hit you 280, 290.
Yeah,
and that's like all he can really offer at this point.
That's fine. All right, let's take a look at the final 10 here. Got some Coors, Willie Castro up there. You know, a guy that you and I like to,
it's a good one.
Like to grab every now and again in DFS specifically. Another Met player, Brett Beatty. A lot of guys with dual positional eligibility there. Ernie Clement, and Andres Jimenez. We know Clement was a lefty killer last season. If you're playing some splits, Colt Keith at times is hitting at the top and middle of the Tigers lineup. You got Lennon Sosa and Chase Meadroth here for the White Sox. Jeff McNeil now in with the Athletics. Brooks Lee, who was, again, a nice prospect for Minnesota there for a little bit. And Acuna, also with the White Sox, rounding out sort of the top 30 here. Obviously, Willie Castro, anybody in the Rockies when they're home in Coors is going to be a bit interesting.
Yeah, we do this. There's always like the new guy that goes to the Rockies. They're like, oh, maybe they'll get a nice boost of their career, right?
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't play out that way, but
we're hopeful. Hey, don't tell that to Mickey Moniak, you know. Like,
don't tell that to Mickey Moniak. I don't, you know, without knowing, I do not believe that Willie Castro was once a first overall pick in the MLB draft. Mickey Moniak
Nolan Jones had a good year with the Coors, you know, and they got sent back to Cleveland, you know. So.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying Willie Castro is a bad. I'm also just being the devil's advocate. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're a couple years removed from Willie Castro stealing over 30 bags. He has not stolen 30 bags combined in the last 2 years. So. Yeah. That would be a good sign. The sprint speed is still 72nd percentile, so I'd love to see that kind of return. But obviously, multi-position eligible guy, slated to hit like kind of in the middle of their order. Gonna have multi-position eligibility. All that stuff is pretty good. Beatty is hard for me to get to because he's definitely going to be in a platoon now that they brought in who they brought in, and Vientos is going to obviously bat against lefties. I feel like that ADP is one tied to the fact that it's, this team was a lot different earlier in the year. And then also that he is the prime trade candidate on this team. Like him and Vientos could be out of the door at any point in the year, if the Mets feel like it. I don't love the ADP. We're gonna see Clement play second. We're gonna see Jimenez play short. Neither are very appealing. I mean, I guess like looking at Ernie Clement, we know what he does against lefties, and then he had the most hits ever in the history of baseball in a postseason.
Playoffs, yeah.
Will there be carryover to that? He's parlaying that into Team USA, like good to go chase gold, and then he gets to play like. So maybe like you can take some flyers on Ernie Clement. Lennon Sosa was quite a revelation last year for the White Sox. The problem is he's in a situation where I don't know what his playing time is going to be. You think about this team. Mydroth is projected to start at second base this year. They have Colson Montgomery. They went and got Murakami. They have Miguel Vargas, right? That's basically their infield spots. I guess like when Caro catches, you have like Lennon Sosa DHing probably, right? That's probably like your
And a lot of the projections only have him for like 100 games this year.
Yeah, it's not like because down here like you're looking for upside, right? Yeah. And I like I'm not saying Lennon Sosa does like if there's an injury he has that, but like I don't really view any of them as like that. Jeff McNeil is safe because he's leaving a situation and entering one that is for the next 2 years in the best possible hitting environment in Major League Baseball. And dude, he's projected to hit 5th on this team.
There's like a potential that if he gets 150 games this year, that he has 15 to 20 homers, right? Like his career high in homers is 23, but like he's hit double-digit homers each of the last 3 seasons, and 12 last year at 122 games, 12 the year before that at 129. Now you put him in Sutter Health, maybe he hits 15, 18 homers this year. With like a respectable batting average.
Do we think it's a coincidence that in his age 32 and 33, he's failed to play 130 games?
Who knows? It's the Mets.
I know. I'm just because only reason I ask is because he's obviously not getting younger.
No,
right?
for
like
sure
he
looks old in the photo.
I feel like he's looked old every year, like when he wasn't old. I would say probably McNeil would probably be the guy
who's only ever played more than 150 games once. So.
True. When he's won 2 batting titles, right? I know for a fact he won in 22, and then I think he won in 20 might have been a little bit of a fluke though, because there was only
he hit 318, 311, he hit 326 in 2022. So.
Yeah, he won the and I know he won the batting title then. I mean, look, if he's gonna hit behind Brent Rooker and in front of Jacob Wilson, he's gonna have a lot of pitches to hit this year.
Sure.
So in an elite hitting environment, if you're in deeper leagues, if you're in AL only leagues, 14 teamers, I definitely don't mind.
Sponsor like middle infielder positions or something like that. So again, and obviously these numbers are ever changing. If you want to go get the latest ADP report, go to fantasy.com/MLB/ADP. As more drafts happen, the composite ADP numbers will be shifting more dramatically over the next couple of weeks here. So again, what you see on the screen right here, a couple of days old, so maybe some of these guys have moved up a little bit more than they have than what's being displayed here. So make sure you go over there, fantasyalarm.com/MLB/ADP. If you don't already have the fantasy baseball draft guide right there, scan that QR code. You can go to fantasyalarm.com /fantasy baseball draft guide and take advantage of our offer there. Get the cheat sheet that's been updated as of this past weekend. Draft grid, auction values, rankings for AL and NL only. Top 400 prospect dynasty rankings involved, sleepers, prospects, and busts as well in that cheat sheet. So now's the time to join Fantasy Alarm, take advantage of our fantasy baseball draft guide, and dominate your league. Like I said, we're going to be doing these for each of the positions, so make sure you check out the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page, guys. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll catch you later.